Coming up tonight on Game All Night, Jake and Danielle Bock from Draft Mechanic. This Week and Each Week is sponsored by Game Toppers. Upgrade your gaming experience.
Welcome to Game All Night.
Well, hello and welcome to another Game All Night. Tonight we're going to be joined briefly by a duo. For the first time in our history, we're gonna extend the couch a little bit. We're going to bring on both Jake and Danielle of Draft Mechanic. And I think if you listen to their show, I think you know that's required. We kind of have to, right, Dan?
Absolutely.
You've been a fan of the show, correct?
Oh yeah, it's about board games and beer. I mean, it was custom made for me.
And I'm famous as saying a couple times on the show, if I didn't do this, I'd totally be doing that. But I don't think I could get through an episode because I just drink it the whole time, which is kind of a bad thing. So that's cool. So what are we drinking, sir? What did you pour for us this evening?
Yeah, so I am drinking Typecast, which is a collaboration beer from Two Roads Brewing and Lawson's Finest Liquids. They say it's a New England, what do they call it? They call it a New England farmhouse IPA.
Okay.
With Two Roads bringing the farmhouse influence. And I gotta say, it is delicious.
I would hope so. We've been saving that one for a special day. Mm-hmm. And I think, Lawson's makes the Sip of Sunshine that I love so much. It's
incredible.
Again, we're talking good, hazy New England IPA. Love them to death.
Yeah, and you take that and add a little bit of like a Belgian yeast strain in there, and it's magical. So it's pretty good.
That's right up your herd alley.
Oh yeah. So for you, I have poured another IPA, a session IPA from 18th Street Brewery out of Indiana.
Okay.
So a little lower ABV, going for that drinkability, so that you can make it through a recording session
or two. So we shall see. So. Jake and Danielle, are you guys imbibing in a nice beverage this evening by any chance?
I can't imagine what you're talking about. Hi.
Oh. So, obviously, we are fans. Well, I'm a fan of an IPA. Dan's more of he's big time into sours and farmhouses. What are you guys drinking when you have, free run of the roost?
Well, right now I have the Noda Brewing Gorgeous, which actually just came off winning a gold medal for pumpkin at GABF. So we're sort of still celebrating that around here, but it's amazing. Yeah. It's a pumpkin beer that isn't all cinnamon and nutmeg. It's got some spice. It's got some like allspice and clove and a lot of pumpkin flavor, but it's not just like chewing on a cinnamon stick, right? Which is really awesome.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I've got from Burial Beer Company, I've got the Emerald Fields Ablaze, I think is what it's called. It's one of a series of collaboration lagers that they've done this year. Burial are good friends of ours, and they just do a lot of really amazing non-hoppy stuff, which I think is a segment that doesn't get as much love as it should.
But they do so many double IPAs,
They do a lot of IPAs as well, no question. But I'm a sucker for a lager these days. People are doing some amazing things with just your classic lagers. This one is I forget which one this is. I think it's a pale malt lager.
Okay.
As opposed to a smoked Helles, and they've done a whole bunch of other different lagers this year.
If you've got the session from 18th Street that I'm thinking of, you have a good beer in your glass, sir.
Oh, it is quite delicious. This was actually friend of the show, Gil Mello, kind of brought over a few beers. I grabbed the Typecast when I was up in Vermont this summer, and then he brought over this one, and it's quite delicious. I'm not going to complain.
Nice.
Yeah. But I was down there in Raleigh, and I was trying to hook up with some people who were local and things like that, because I know it's not necessarily right next door to you all, but it's not too far away. And I was supposed to have a Saturday off and come down and help out, but Hurricane Florence came through and totally wrecked any plans that I had of gaming with anybody and hanging out. So I had to sit in my little lonely hotel room playing Nemo's War and drinking Noda White Lily. So I fell in love with Noda when I was down there. That was a nice little special find. And there was a little pour shop that was in the strip mall I was working on, and they had a lot of the Noda stuff sitting in there, and That's something special.
Yeah, they do a lot of amazing stuff, and we've known them for a very long time. They were not one of the first, but one of the first to really break out of just kind of the generic brewery thing.
Certainly in Charlotte, they were the first that's still around.
Oh yeah, no question. But I mean, they've been around for almost 8 years now, it feels like.
Well, I mean, yeah.
It's been a while. And, finally them getting a gold medal for Gorgeous here, not their first GABF medal, but their first gold. It feels great. And the town is just absolutely over the moon about Noda and the other breweries that won this year.
Right. It's really impressive, the beer scene that's kind of started to spring up. And it's still pretty new down there from what, people are talking about, and even you guys on the show. And it's just, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels very mature, and the styles are pretty well established. It doesn't feel like they're just taking stabs at styles and things. So I was, I tried a few things. I was very impressed. I love it when I find a good find like that.
Yeah, the thing I really love about North Carolina is you can go to any major city or even to some of the smaller cities, and you'll find 2 or 3 breweries, and you'll find a bottle shop that has stuff from all over the state. And we're very, very tuned into local ingredients and local breweries, and really, bringing up those independents as much as we can.
Right. Your show is, it remains one of the last of the independents as well, So, we've been famously on board as yelling at Anheuser-Busch for buying up all the breweries and kind of ruining our little hobby a little bit, and kind of thinning the herd, as it were. Like, what used to be good for Goose Island is now kind of meh. Bourbon County's okay. It's not like it was. There's definitely
At least it didn't explode this year, right?
No, we're just saving that for the other things. And they didn't have warehouses collapse, so it's it's definitely been a hard year for alcohol. That's a problem. So you guys, if people don't know, you guys run a show, and it's called Draft Mechanic. And what I love about it is I think you guys do a really good job of doing the board games and beer thing right. Like, it doesn't feel tacked on. You guys are both enthusiasts, and it's still very fresh. So where did the idea, I mean, I'm sure I know where the idea came from. We're drinking beer, we're playing games, let's talk about this, right? But how did it really kind of come together to make it happen?
This is not a false story, but I woke up one day and I had the name Draft Mechanic in my head, and I'm just like, okay, cool, I figured out a hook. And it just started as an Instagram handle more than anything else. And then once we got, really rolling and feeling comfortable with it, we said, well, we should do a podcast. We both have a background in radio back in college. So why not turn this into, a more significant thing? We've formed opinions. We're, people that play board games. So obviously we have formed opinions.
Yeah, right.
Just being able to tie in the beer thing and really kind of try to bring craft beer to people who are board game fans and probably look at beer as, ooh, that evil thing, or, oh, I've never tried that, or I tried an IPA once and I, didn't like it. I'm like, well, we can bring this to you and show you, some interesting things that are not going to be bad.
Right.
Not only that, but both hobbies, I mean, I do consider craft beer a hobby, because if you are actually paying attention to what you're learning about and you're drinking, it definitely is something that you can engage in as a hobby. They're both really about community. I mean, we were just talking a minute ago about how in North Carolina there's a lot of community coming up around the breweries and about using local ingredients. And board gaming is obviously going to create community. It creates so many awesome gaming groups, and just even across the internet, people who are forming communities around that hobby. And since they both sort of had that same community aspect, it made sense to put them together and be like, hey, there's got to be people who are interested in both of these things, who need some kind of place to get that information, or a place to get that sort of thought and get thoughts rolling in that direction.
Right. And I think, obviously I'm not, I don't sit here in front of a game of walls. I want to produce something different for a reason. And, having 2 types of content in a show, I think is great, because it gives you a bridge, and it gives you a break from, where it's going to be an hour and a half of game talk. Well, it's going to be an hour of game talk and half an hour of beer talk or something. I think it helps to kind of dilute the board game crush, I guess, as it were. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I definitely hear you there. And I think another thing that we've really kind of tried to come back to a lot, and you kind of alluded to it a little while ago, there's a lot of parallels that we draw between craft beer and board games in terms of the industry thing. You know, you were talking about how Anheuser-Busch, AB InBev has changed Goose Island so much and so on and so forth. And then you have the same thing happening in board games right now with Asmodee buying up everything. And what does that mean for the state of the hobby? And what are the parallels and what are the differences that are significant enough that we don't need to worry particularly about this? And then you see the miniatures from Mansions of Madness that are falling apart and floppy and coming out of end of the box. And you're like, okay, maybe there is some truth to this and we need to be paying a closer eye to some of this stuff.
Right. It's not that Goose Island is bad, but it's just not the same level that it was, right? Because
they're a cog in the machine.
Right. You can't mass produce the stuff. And they're kind of, you know, I'm not trying to throw them specifically under the bus because, you know, they're just an easy one to pin on because they're probably one of the most noticeable differences in the Bourbon County, which used to be really rare and you had to go hunt it down. You could only get it in like Michigan, I believe. You had to seek this out. And then it turns out like, you know, I can go on my local Wegmans now and just, you know, get a bottle, which yay for accessibility.
I'm jealous you have a local Wegmans.
True. Well, there's some coming. They're starting to filter down your way. So I know they're
building one in Cary. Yeah.
Yeah. They're building one in Raleigh as I was walking by. So they're coming. They're coming. Yeah, it was right up by the store I was at. So it's coming.
Before we drift too far, I wanted to say also the side effect of having a show that combines board games and beer is that you have, I think, far and away the best year in review shows. Because being able to do a top games list and a top beer list is a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
it is tough to keep track of, and I think that, you know, just like how we have the Board Game Stats app on all of our phones, I'm sure, to track all of our board games, we all very deeply use Untapped for everything, any kind of beer, and not because, you know, I want to like, oh man, I drank 1,000 beers this year, but I need to remember, okay, which one of those thousands was any good?
Yeah. Like, I don't know if you're like me, but when I do Untapped, I only put new things in there. I never, like, if I've already drunk it, I don't put it again because for me, it's just like, I just want tasting notes on what I like. So I don't use it for quantity. I use it for quality. So how have you seen your show evolve since you guys first started? Because I came in probably, 2 years ago. So, you know, kind of early.
About a year in.
Right. But, you know, do you feel that the show has, like, what kind of things have evolved other than just kind of finding your own voices?
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, finding a way the show really works as a structure. I feel like the on-taps have gotten a lot better. I mean, you know, Danielle takes all of those under control, and she just does such an unbelievable amount of research for each episode of this thing.
It shows.
I honestly, like, the biggest evolution we had is when we opened up our Slack channel and started talking to people in the Slack, and we do the final round thing at the end of the episode now where we get everybody's opinion on a topic. That was a really fun way to build a little extra community and hear from some of those listeners that we knew were out there, but having that bridge to the community and having, you know, some opportunities to really check in with them. Oh, speaking of community, here's the live studio cat. I told you he'd be here. You know, it gives us an opportunity to really build more conversations. And that's really the best thing about having this thing go on for over 3 years now.
Right. And I think it really shows because, you know, it helps that you guys are both partners in your podcast and in life. I mean, that's obvious and apparent, but it's like you have that banter and you have that, you know, that willingness to call each other out without being jerks about it. Like, you know, some shows will get like that and they'll get a little jerky about it, but, you know, when Jake starts getting a little crazy and he gets a little heavy on the wah-wah pedal, you know,
Danielle, the carcass out.
Exactly. You know, you have Danielle there reeling him back in, like, okay, buddy. And everybody who has ever been in a serious relationship goes, yeah, that's me. I do that.
It's about balance.
It really is. So, what kind of challenges do you think come from, you know? Again, I'm just learning what I avoided by not doing a beer and board game show. So what kind of challenges, because this is obviously what you've kind of built your show around. It's your style. It's combining the two things you really enjoy, right? So it spills over into your game nights because you also go out to, bottle shops in the Salute Cerveceria, and you do things like that. So how have you found, is that a limiting factor, or does it help grow it?
The fact that we're at bottle shops, I feel like has helped grow our game night a little bit, and at breweries, and we actually do one at a cidery and meadery as well, so that gets some people who aren't super interested in beer. But
Okay.
it's always a little bit more comfortable to go and hang out at a brewery than it might be. We have some amazing local game stores around here that we used to go to game nights all the time at, but they were a little bit uncomfortable, and for somebody to just go out and be like, oh, I'm just going to go grab a drink and maybe I'll go play some games, and if it's no fun, then I'll just close my tab and I'll leave. Whereas if you go to a game store, you've kind of committed, and if you walk in and you're like, oh, this isn't what I wanted, and you walk out, it feels really awkward.
Yeah,
so I feel like it's helped us to really get people who might not necessarily have come out to a game night to come to our game nights, because they have something else that they can focus on. If like, I think our game nights are great, but they're not everybody's cup of tea.
Right.
I've been really excited the way that, especially at Good Road Cider Works, they actually approached us to do a game night, and that's another story for another time. But being a cidery, it attracts a different crowd than a bar or a bottle shop, and people that are just looking. They're getting around town, they're checking stuff out, and go by a cidery and just like, oh, what's craft cider? What's craft mead all about? And then they see a whole bunch of people playing board games in the side room. They're just like, oh, okay. There's even more things that are under the radar for the random person, and that's one thing that's been really exciting to me over the last year or so, doing the two different meetups, is finding these people coming in that had no idea that the hobby even existed. And it's so cool to have some people come up and just be like, what is this, Sagrada? Oh, wow, you got a lot of cool, really colorful dice, or wow, look at these miniatures, or oh, I thought all board games were just cardboard and paper. I'm like, no, believe it or not. And by doing this thing in such a public area, it's really been fun to see people just kind of get hooked in and kind of roped into the hobby. That's the best part of it.
It's definitely interesting because we have Appalachian Brewing up here, who's kind of more of a small side local kind of brew pub that we have that's here in Harrisburg. And that's the first game night I went to, was one that was right there. So we're talking 2012 range, right? Our entrances into the hobby, I believe, are similar, because it was the Will Wheaton, I forget what I was looking for, came across tabletop, started watching, and I'm like, oh no, this looks like fun. And you start calling all your friends, and you start getting together, and you start trying to get these game nights. And when you kind of get past your initial kind of friends, and you just want that next step, that's what it was. It was meetup.com. It was this brew pub that's right near me. They ran a thing on, I think it was Sunday morning, and just kind of, I'm free, I don't have to work, I'll go check it out. And then I can't tell you, all my current friendships and board game things really blossomed out of that decision to go to that thing, because I had the comfort level of, well, hey, if it doesn't work out, I grab a growler and go home. It's just like, well, yeah. And what was cool was, I've been to other things after that where, they're easy to play table games. But this one wasn't. This was my first games I played in this group were like Power Grid, Macau.
Oh, okay.
Sulkin.
Yeah.
We're talking like they didn't.
Of Euro gaming.
Right. Well, back then, some of them were the new hotness.
True.
So it was like, but it was interesting that, we got to try these really heavy things in that kind of atmosphere. And sometimes I think people don't think that happens, because maybe it's not their experience, or they tried one and it was all light fare. But I'm like, no, it all depends on the group, the people, and the agenda, really.
We always try to bring a decent mix of games when we come out to these game nights. We'll bring stuff from Happy Salmon, and I think pretty much as heavy as we're willing to bring with us is a Terraforming Mars kind of game.
Okay.
And that is, a game like that is so easy for people to just like, I'm going to go play that tonight, that I think that heavy end of the game spectrum for our game nights has worked out really well.
Well, that being said, our last game night that we just had at Good Road, somebody was playing Millennium Blades there, and they got about halfway through it, and everybody decided, okay, we've had enough. It's a Wednesday. No, sorry, it's a Thursday. It's time to go home. But they took pictures of everything, and they're good to go if they wanted to play Millennium Blaze again.
Oof.
We've had Founders. There's people who play Gloomhaven. I mean, you get the right evening, and there will definitely be some heavier games that come out than we bring.
I forgot that group brought Gloomhaven. That was a long night.
That's when the bartender looks over.
Like, oh, it's this kind of night.
Yeah. We have blessed by having a very good, friendly local game store, and he's really good. He lets us run late and things like that when we game there. I since don't game there because I'm way too busy to actually do it. But like, I just remember the look on his face when somebody tried to start Firefly at 11 o'clock.
Oh, no. 11 o'clock?
At 11 o'clock. He walks over to the table. He's like, guys, no. He just flat out, no.
A similar thing happened at our game store. I remember a few years ago, one of our local game stores, we were finishing up, I think, Mysterium or something, and, the shop closes at 11. It's about probably about 10 o'clock that we're, in the middle of the game. And we look over, and two of our friends are getting into a 6-player game of Eclipse. And I look over, and I made eye contact with our friend Kyle, and he looked back at me, and he's just like, oh no, what have I done?
Especially if there's somebody new in that group and you're just like, and it's a learning game. You're just like, I can pull out some pretty quick stuff. Like I can vividly remember the one time we did 7-player 7 Wonders, but it was done in 30 minutes because everybody knew the game, and it was just like pass. It was amazing how fast it was. Might actually be one of the last times I played it, but it's definitely, you have the right group, you can move along. I don't know if you could ever move Eclipse along though. That's a beast. She does not want to move fast, that's for sure.
Well, I still have yet to play it, mainly because I do not have time to play that game.
Right. And then that's kind of the rub. It's just like, well, you can do that, or you can do, you can do your taxes. You can do a lot in that time frame. So, well, you know what? I think this is a great place to pause. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to hear from Patrick Hillier, who's friend of the show now. I have him doing little things. So we'll be right back after these words of encouragement from Mr. Hillier himself.
Pontifications with Patrick Hillier.
You can't run through a campground. You can only ran because it's past tense.
And imagine that, just like magic, we have a groan or so later. I am now still joined by Jake and Danielle of Draft Mechanic. We talked a lot about the show before, and how you guys have kind of carved out a really cool niche. So what are some of the things you like to do when you're not doing things for the show? Because we all know that there's life outside of board games and shows, right? So what do you do for fun and livings and things like that?
I mean, I hate to say it, but 2 very big hobbies takes up a lot of the time. I mean, in addition to that, I'm a big record collector. I have a lot of vinyl. Kind of just came out. Growing up with 2 very musical parents, and found my way into radio back in college, and through then I continually am getting records and CDs and just checking out what the latest and greatest stuff there is. That's kind of my whole outside of board games kind of deal, I guess. Okay, I had to pick anything.
But we're not talking like Columbia House, buy 10 for a dime, and they just show up.
No.
They don't do that anymore, I don't think, right?
I don't think so. I wouldn't be surprised if something like that exists, but...
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a subscription service. There's 1,000 subscription services now.
That's true.
Well, no, now you have no idea what's going to show up in your subscription service. You get a whole box of maybe
something.
It's like, it's crazy, right? But I don't know how many of those accounts I opened when I was a kid. It was ridiculous. Like, I mean, I had one for like Chris with a K, Chris with CHR. I had Douglas, my middle name. It was crazy. I had so many different ones. Well, they can't come after you. You're like a kid. It's like, I remember figuring that out.
Know. I've got my 7 CDs for a penny, and they can't stop me.
Right? It's just like you get like 1 or 2, and then you're just like, I quit. And then you just keep sending them back. It was hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
They actually went and did it with movies later on. They had I was big in the mid 90s. The hot technology before DVDs was Laserdisc, right? We had to get up and flip our movies halfway through.
Yep.
You know, or if later on you bought a good enough Laserdisc player, it would actually flip itself. Like the head goes around and reads the other side. It was pretty awesome. I still have the Battleship, I call it. But it was the same deal, right? You could like get 3 movies for a penny. I'm like, okay, I'll take it. And then you realize, well, the only good 3 movies they had were the ones you got, and then you're kind of stuck. So
I can only imagine the shipping on a Laserdisc mailing club.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, well, it was all media mail. That's why it was all the cheap stuff because they did. You know, if you were selling DVDs or books or things like that, they just media mailed. Which, have you ever like gone to the post office to do shipping and stuff and just get ticked off at how cheap media mail is? And you're like, there's a book in my board game. I could totally send it this way.
Yeah, this is technically media.
Right, exactly. It's multimedia, in fact, because there's bits, there's books. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. So one of the favorite things that you guys do on your show, and unfortunately I can't really listen to most of them yet, is the time stories. You're going through that. You know,
Are you playing through as well?
we are haven't done Brotherhood of the Coast yet. That one's still waiting. We tend to wait until we have 2 and then make a day of it. Although that was supposed to be Lumen Fide and Brotherhood of the Coast. And
That's a big day.
We got completely stuck on Lumen Fide for the rest of the day. I think we ended with doing a quick escape because it was just like, that one was a beast. I mean, it was a good beast.
It also had a kind of a game-breaking typo that if you went a certain route, there was a very critical instruction missing.
Oh.
That's not so great. Oh, speaking of, by the way, then, if you're about to do Brotherhood of the Coast, please look up the fact beforehand in case there are any things that you do not have the information for.
Interesting. That'll be good to know because I kind of feel like we had issues kind of grokking the main puzzle and maybe we were missing a piece in there.
Oh, yeah.
I think the thing that was missing was an instruction on movement.
Yeah, it was an instruction on how to get from one spot that was a dead end to the next spot.
Gotcha. Interesting. I'll have to look that up and see if it cropped up in our game at all. But have you done Brotherhood of the Coast yet? Have you tried that one? Okay.
Oh yeah, we did it. I picked it up at Gen Con. It made it to Gen Con, I think, on Saturday. They finally actually got the copies in there.
Okay.
So I picked it up immediately because we are Time Stories fanatics, and we have played it. Team Alpha took 6.5 hours.
Oh.
Team Beta took 3.5 hours. So, what I will say about Brotherhood of the Coast is it has the potential for overthinking if your team overthinks things.
Yeah.
And our team totally overthinks things.
Like our team Alpha, it's me and Danielle and our friends Dan and Kyle. We are very analytical people. We think a lot about the puzzles, and that's why we've enjoyed a lot of them so far in the past. And the beta team is more of a impulsive kind of let's see what happens. And sometimes it works out for the better for them. It's kind of interesting having 2 different teams going in on it like that, and we watch them play and see how they interact with the situations.
I tend to be the impulsive one, and everybody else tends to be the very analytical ones. But I also get stuck on a train of thought, right? Like, you know, if you keep seeing yellow, then everything's a banana, and it's just I keep getting focused on that, and I'll keep coming back to that. And that actually cropped up. We played. I set up and we played a big day of detective where we ran through the first 2 cases, and totally hosed it on the second one because we did that exact same thing. And then of course they got groupthink because I'm big, loud, and shouty. And, you know, this is how this makes sense. Well, it made sense with what we had, but we didn't have everything we needed to have. So that was a problem. Have you guys tried that one yet?
No. It's kind of eluded us so far.
Yeah, it was a thing that we meant to take a look at, but I know if they had any copies for sale at Gen Con, it went in seconds.
Yeah. It was gone.
So we just haven't gotten a chance, and we're still in Gen Con backlog. We're trying to get through stuff that we picked up there. So
fair enough. I happened to luck into I lucked into a copy at Atomic Empire when I was down there.
Awesome.
I happened to run in and just kind of check it out, and I'm like, but I went in there twice, and I didn't realize that they had beer taps on the first run through.
Yeah.
And like the second day, I'm like, hey, wait, what's this? I'm like, I totally missed that because it was like the middle of the afternoon, so no one was in there, so I didn't even see that whole side. I just kind of saw, oh, that's for the Magic players, and then kind of.
Yeah, I've yet to make it out there for one of their big game nights. I think they do like Monday nights open gaming. But from what I've heard from people that live up in the area there, it gets pretty busy, and they do a really great open board gaming, and especially having the beer taps and the food, and there's a number of food options right nearby. It really kind of draws people in, and you can't argue with how much table space they have. There's a lot of space in the back half of that room.
That's insane, and it's really well done. And you know what, sometimes we go into these game stores and it's the less than friendly game store, right? And it was the exact opposite here. It was amazing how just kind of open and helpful, and I don't think and there were a lot of people working, but everybody was still very interested and helpful, and it was really well done. So props to them for making that happen. So so you did time stories. We've talked about the cat. I think we need to talk about this other thing that you kind of are running through the show right now, and whatever on earth possessed you to play all of the Carcassones? Like, come on, like what
what did possess you?
Well, to start off, Carcassonne was the first real quote unquote hobby game that I got really into.
Okay.
And to this day, I still think it is one of the greatest of the classic hobby board games that you can find. It's such an easy game to teach and such an easy game to pick up. And they did such an amazing job with expansions and alternates and stuff like that, to the point where we got to a point where, wow, there's a lot of this stuff, and I've picked up a good number of them. But like where it actually started was we went to Geekway to the West this year, and I finally had the chance to cross off playing Carcassonne the City, which is one of the alternate Carcassonne standalone spin-offs that people always say is a really good game. And I've been wanting to play this for a long time. It does this really interesting mechanic where as you are playing through the game, you start building the walls around the outside of the city that eventually closes it off. If you've ever played Palace of Mad King Ludwig, the way that the moat works is identical to the way that the walls in the city work. And I got playing that, and we got back from Geekway. We recorded that episode, and I just remember looking at the shelf, and I realized that we had picked up, I think, 2 of the standalone expansions from another local event, Mega MooseCon. Just had like a free table and a cheap table, and I'm just like, let's see what the Discovery is like. And we played that one, and then I'm like, well, what about, I don't remember what the next one we did was, but it got to the point where we just started rolling through these every episode, and I remembered how much I love Carcassonne, and here we are.
Oh, no, it definitely has, the place in the hobby that, I love it. It gave us our meeple shape. There's a lot of history involved. I actually went this year and blew up Carcassonne and put it on magnet board. And then we played a tournament at my little local birthday con. And then the final round was played on a big magnet board on the wall. So it was
that's so cool.
It was, it's something I love. I still think it's fun. And what do you find that is your favorite way to play it? Because come on, if we dump everything in here, we're going to be here all night, right? If you play every expansion ever.
Yeah, we did that exactly one time. Don't do that thing.
No, I don't even know if I could do like 3 or 4 starts to get a little wonky. You're like,
are you talking about just expanding the base Carcassonne set or some of the standalones or?
Yeah, just like, let's just talk like we just picked up the base set from Barnes & Noble. I probably should have this one expansion with it. What do you think is your favorite?
If you're only going to buy one expansion, I would say probably Traders and Builders.
Okay.
I think everyone should have Inns and Cathedrals, but it is less of an impressive change than Traders and Builders. Traders and Builders is so good they essentially implemented most of it again with Over Hill and Dale, which is one of my favorite standalones. So if you're going to buy just one expansion, I would say Traders and Builders is the one to go for.
Okay.
I think a lot of it comes down to player count as well. If you're playing with 3 or 4 or 5 players, Traders and Builders is really good because then you get a few more pieces, and you get to really vie for contention of the different features. You're really going to, know, like attack cities. You can get your builders in there to make some stuff expand really fast, or maybe you want to be able to draw 2 tiles so you can merge with somebody else and encroach on their farm. That's definitely one of the ones that I would pick. I got to say, I was really impressed with number 10, the one that just came out, Under the Big Top, which I thought was going to be a really lackluster expansion. But the way that one works, you really you have the circus tent that moves around as you draw circus tent tiles, basically. And all of the new scoring options are so tied into the circus tent that it forces everybody to move around the board, rather than what you'll see in some games is, I've got my zone in this corner, you do your stuff in your corner, and we'll see who gets the most stuff. So I was amazed how well Under the Big Top really expanded the game of Carcassonne in a way that it really hadn't done yet, made people play together.
Interesting. So, I mean, there you have it, definitive information if you're going to go buy it. I agree. I kind of feel like, Inns and Cathedrals, you kind of almost can't even count it, because I kind of think you should just always play with that, because I think
classic.
it's like it doesn't, but like you said, Danielle, it doesn't really change enough to really warrant a whole shtick, but it's enough to say it's a lot more tiles, a lot more interesting shapes. And then, you get the whole, I'm going to throw the cathedral on here and you'll never complete this beast. And then your guys are just stuck there forever. So it gives you a lot of those, those little options.
You joke a bit about the, definitive answer, but I think that's actually one of the really cool things that's going to come out of the project is, because you guys are adding to your sort of master list, like ranking them and placing them against that. Like, I think that at the end of the day, that will be, I feel like several years from now, people are still going to be pulling up like the draft mechanic master list of Carcassonne standalones, because I don't think that exists out there. Like, I don't think there's a lot of competition for
the
that
draft
sort of
mechanic
reference.
Definitive guide to the Carcassonne.
I
need my button.
Surprised to hear that we have another one coming in. The Carcassonne Safari. They're still releasing more standalones. Carcassonne Safari should be hitting stores maybe this month, maybe next month. And the fact that we get a fresh one to review is actually really kind of exciting to me. And it allows me to delay talking about the catapult as long as possible.
And that's a good thing, because that's just like the worst thing ever. Just for no good reason, let's just unbuild everything you just built, because we love that mechanic in a game, don't we? So good, so good. So you did one special thing that I absolutely loved. I laugh at podcasts a lot, and I'm sure people look at you funny when you're in a car and you're laughing along, but I don't know if anything has made me laugh as much as when you did My Meeple and Me. I think that...
Oh, wow. So you listened to that then?
Oh, my goodness. I probably listened to that twice.
Pennsylvania was.
Yes, yes. And I hate it when it's like, it's a project of love, and you're just like, I know it's not for everybody, but this is perfect for me. It's just like, I try to share it because I think it's hysterical and irreverent, and it does all the things that I kind of want a comedy show to be. And I do want to encourage that if you do it again, maybe it's a once a year, I don't know, whatever, but it was definitely a lot of fun. If you haven't heard it yet, I encourage you to check it out.
Yep. We have it linked on draftmechanic.net. There's a page specifically for that, a subpage you can go to for My Meeple and Me. And it does also have a submission form if you wish to submit questions for the alleged future episode. And I can neither confirm nor deny that any future episodes of that will happen. That was a lot of fun. And it was such a fun project. It was me and Alex from the Dukes of Dice and Aaron from Boards Alive. We're all big fans of the McElroy brothers, the podcasting empire of the McElroys. And it's a joke that we, kind of just joked about. And I think Aaron they did like a Cool Board Games Inc. once, and then we were just talking online and kind of just steamrolled from there. And eventually Alex became the third man in that, because we found out he was a big McElroy's fan as well. And then after 7 or 8 months, we finally recorded it. And then another 6 months later, I actually got the thing edited.
Hey, Aaron has kids.
Aaron does have kids. And Alex was on a sabbatical.
He was running around the world for some silly reason. trying to find himself. But which is funny because, Alex is, so there are some people in this industry, in this podcast industry, who are prolific and, are venerable and just go completely across the spectrum, right? And they'll be on every single show, and they'll try to put themselves out there as much as possible. And then there's Alex, who's really seems kind of quiet and kept to himself. And then when I heard that on the show, and I'm like, what the heck is this? Because it's just like he doesn't do that. What happens
when you end up on the Dice Tower Network? You have to be nice and reserved.
Yeah, that ship sailed. Like when I had the brainchild, I'm like, yeah, no, can't do that. I need to. No, I want to have fun. So, and unfortunately for me, it involves swearing and drinking. So it's kind of important to me. So
life is rough.
It is. It really is. Need to pick, better hobbies, I guess. Not. These are great.
These are great hobbies, and everybody should respect these hobbies.
Absolutely. So this has been a lot of fun. What do you say we let Dan ruin it? I mean, continue it by coming up with a little game for us, Dan. What do you think?
Oh, ruining is my expertise right here. So I would be delighted.
You are the dirty glass to my home brew. That's what you are. You're just gonna wreck the whole batch.
Unsanitized pipes.
Yes.
I don't know this. We might have to workshop this a little bit before I'm ready to print up the business card. But I appreciate where we're going with it.
Hey, with
Dirty glass is a really weird title for a business card.
Especially when I forget the G and the L when I just.
What a strange typo.
Oh, sorry, Dan. I just had all these printed with your name completely wrong. Oh, I guess I need to get on that anyway before PAX U comes. Are you guys coming to PAX U?
I will flip a coin and tell you the answer to that.
Heads I win, tails you lose?
Kinda.
Well, hopefully you can make it. It would be awesome if you can, because, I always appreciate hanging out with people, and I'm local. I can show you around nothing because I never go into town. So, but I can find food typically. So, All right. Well, this sounds fun. Dan, why don't we take a quick break and then we can prep our game and we can see where we go from there. So, hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the show. Real quick, I just wanted to take a moment to let you know a few things about us. Number one is we have a Pod Pledge page. Now on there you can donate any amount, monthly, weekly, daily, whatever, and any of that goes directly to support the show, build the sets, better equipment, and all those things. I'm not trying to get rich. I'm not trying to quit my day job. Just anything helps. Number two is please check out our social media. If you're not following us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, please do so. We definitely interact with our people a lot on there because we want you guys to be part of this show. Also, be sure to subscribe to YouTube. That little red button down there? Make sure you're clicking that, and also do the bell icon so that you can get notified whenever we post a video. Once, twice, maybe 3 times a week. Lastly, please be sure to tell your friends. Whether you retweet something, whether you go out and you tell them about the channel, show them a show, anything you can do to get the word out, we would greatly appreciate it. So that's it. I'm now going to return you to your regularly scheduled program. Operators are standing by. All right, and we're back because, of course, it's got to be game time.
It's game time!
So Jake and Danielle are going to be here, so we're going to leave them up on screen, and I'm going to shove Dan down in the corner there. So, Dan, you kind of came up with this game today, and showing that we kind of enjoy our host show as much as we do the libations that we partake, and you came up with something interesting.
Yeah,
so,
I don't know if it's fair to give me credit for coming up with this, as we'll see in a moment. That I think all I've done is just steal directly from our lovely guests. So
those you can't do steal, right? Isn't that the saying?
It's a specialty. So one of my favorite segments of the show is the on tap segment in which you guys will find a list of beers. A pair exists is not the right term because there's usually 3 to 4 to 5 beers that thematically fit with the game under review in that particular episode. And I thought this would work just fine in reverse, which is to say what I'd like to do is list the beers that you paired with a given game and see if you guys can come up with the game that was under discussion. We'll do this one at a time. I'll list one of the beers and put it out for guesses, and then we'll list another. And then, by the time we get 3-4 beers in, I think that most of these will be pretty obvious. So at some point, who can guess it fastest will be the question.
I like where
fun?
this is headed. It does. It does.
Sounds great.
So, are we going to award points for how fast a person can get it?
No, so what we'll do is we'll handicap this because one might have perceived that the lovely hosts of Draft Mechanic have an advantage when we're discussing segments on Draft Mechanic. You're an avid listener, Chris, but to be fair...
I don't hear it 4 times and I don't actually come up with the creativeness. I get it.
So what we'll do is for each, as we go through the rounds, as I name a beer, we will... offer it to you before Jake, before Danielle, so that everyone has a chance at the same one. If you get it, then you have captured it before we let the folks who might have a better shot have their guess. This is not, we haven't begun the game yet, but for example, if I were to name the beer Fantôme de Noël, maybe it's not enough. Maybe it's not enough for you to go on. You can't guess what game you guys were discussing. If I said Ghost Hop, you might be a little closer. If I name the third beer in that on-tap segment, which was Duclaw's Mysterium Spiced Belgian Ale, you might be able to guess that we were talking about Mysterium.
One would hope, but that might be a little on the nose.
Some of them are not quite that easy. All right, are we ready to get this started?
Ready.
All right,
do
so
it.
round number 1. We'll start with a Swedish mango lassi gosa named Bianca, which I gotta say, by the way, I'm a huge fan of the gosa style. I have never in life had a mango lassi gosa, so I'm intrigued to try that at some point. But
Man, if you see this, you gotta try it. It's so good.
I'll keep an eye out. So the beer is Bianca. Chris, do you have any idea what game might have been on tap?
I really don't.
Okay, which is very fair. I also would not have been able to get it based on that. What about you, Mr. Jake?
No. How about no? I'm going to go with no. My official answer here.
Which is giving me hope, by the way, that there is something to this. If we go back far enough, at least, these lists are not instantly coming back to your mind. What about you, Danielle?
It's Shakespeare, my good man.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
We might have some problems stumping someone.
Episode 30?
13, as a matter of fact. So
Oh, no.
We are reaching back all the way into year 1.
All right.
Impressive.
All right, so the first beer is a wheat beer from Allagash, which is just titled White. Chris, what game was on tap?
I'll go with Blood Rage.
Blood Rage. Okay. I'm not sure I see the connection, but the answer is no, it was not Blood Rage. What about you, Jake?
White. Allagash White. What in the world did we use Allagash White for? No. I mean, no, I don't have a clue. Danielle, you gonna get in one like usual?
No, I remember doing a color thing, but I don't remember why we did it.
Oh wow.
Okay. Well, okay, then this too will count as a success. If we got past round 1, we've done something right.
There is
That's
obvious...
a point for you.
Right.
Okay. So, the second beer for this same game was Hickory Stick, a stout from Old Hickory Brewery right there in North Carolina.
Lignums?
Okay, I see where you're coming from. Not correct, but it's a good guess. What about you, Jake?
Oh man, it's stirring something deep in the mind. Hickory Stick and Allagash White. No, I'm gonna have to pass. That
All
is,
right.
We are still deep into the backlog.
I also have to pass.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Okay. All right, we're going a little deeper on this one. Okay, so I think I doubt we're getting further than this. The third beer is a beer called Euphoria, from Three Sheeps Brewing, and it might help to know that the beer is spelled EWE, Foria, and that's a ginger chocolate stout from Three Sheeps Brewing. So we have white, we have hickory stick, and we have Euphoria. Chris, what was on tap?
Let's go with Agricola and go classic.
I see where you're coming from. That is not correct.
And yeah, whenever you say, I think I see where you're coming from, and it's the completely wrong direction, is usually
If
how
I start off
that's
with
gonna end.
that's not a good sign. All right, what was on tap, Jake? Hickory stick.
Was this one
white.
Catan?
It was.
Okay.
It was, and you had a beer per good.
What was the white? Oh,
was
wheat.
for wheat. It was a wheat beer.
Yeah, okay. Oh.
See, that's when you get tricky, kind of like you just did with the 9-pack, but, which is not legal in every state, but...
You guys still have to buy that at like a separate store, right?
No, we have to take 2 trips. We can do that.
Oh, okay.
You have to buy 3 cans here, and then you go down the street to get the can holder, and then down the block to get the other 6 cans.
Exactly. Yeah. No, we can carry out one 12-pack.
Yeah. As I say, someone either lived here or has traveled here because you guys feel the
I
pain.
briefly lived in central Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
It's gotten a little better, but not much.
it's true. Wegmans we can thank for some of that. But okay. All right. Round 3. Chris, this is your chance to get on the board right here. I think it's going to happen.
You could do it.
I don't think they ever put 18XX on tap.
There's no theme.
I'm afraid not.
Exactly. This beer tastes like Train. I listen to Train while I drink this beer. Does
I'm
that
sure,
count?
I do not doubt that there are some train-themed beers, and Danielle could find them. That's what I trust.
Train has made a beer. Train made a beer at one
Did
point.
they? Interesting.
Sorry, but this is knowledge you know now.
Okay. So it was mediocre, passable, and
It tastes of regret.
taste of regret and disappointment.
Okay, so the first beer in this episode was Fortunate Islands from Modern Times in California.
Bora Bora.
Ooh, no. I won't do the I see where you're coming from this time.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious.
but
Thank
no,
you.
it's not
Thank you
correct.
for that.
Trying to think of games we did on tap really early. I'm
jumping around the list a little bit.
No, I'm gonna pass for now.
Okay. There's a lot of passing, but it worked out. It all played into your strategy for the last round, so maybe.
Yeah.
All right, Danielle, Fortunate Islands from Modern
Is it
Times.
Island Hopper?
Ooh, okay. It is not.
I bet I was real pissed I had used it when we did Island Hopper.
This is entirely possible.
I felt like it might be a little rough on Chris if we did Island Hopper. I'm not sure how familiar he is with the game, so.
That's okay.
All right.
It's a known entity.
Okay, maybe I could have done it. So that was more recent too. So beer number 2 in this episode
Okay.
was Shipwreck from Carton Brewing in New Jersey. Chris, what was on tap with Shipwreck and Fortunate Islands?
Is it Panamax?
It is not. I hope there's no ship. I have never managed to wreck my ship in Panamax, fortunately.
Well, you know.
Moving through
I'm
the
just
canal.
thinking-
I've got them stuck many times, but
Yeah. I mean, there's only so many Panama Jack things you can do, so.
okay. Jake, Shipwreck and Fortunate Islands.
See, this is that impulsive player coming out from Time Stories, in case you didn't notice.
Was it Jamaica?
No, it was not Jamaica.
Dang.
Have you guys done
Okay.
Jamaica?
I don't know.
No. God.
We've not done Jamaica apparently.
That'll be the rum
I
episode.
have to put Red Stripe on it.
True.
And
Yeah,
I'm not
that-
putting Red Stripe on one.
That's not worth doing, no. No, absolutely not.
You care too much about your brand to reach that, go that low.
I can vividly remember the first red stripe I ever had, too. I was on a cruise ship, and I'm like, I'm going to have some island beer, and I had that, and it was disgusting. Oh, it was so bad. Even, like, I didn't even have any beer taste yet, and I knew it was bad. Oh, not good.
So,
Chubby little bottle.
it is a cute bottle. Shame it's not put to better use. All right. Shipwreck and Fortunate Islands. Danielle, what do you have for us?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. We'll go to number 3 then. Number 3 is Castaway IPA by Kona Brewing.
Oh, gee. I wonder. Well, now I'm thinking it's Castaway.
Not quite that precise. So
Yeah, no, because I thought that we had that discussion way back when, but
Jake, Castaway IPA.
I'm just going to keep going at the theme. Libertalia?
Again, I don't know that the Libertalia pirate ship ever crashes. So I don't know that you. But there certainly are castaways in that game, so that fits. But no, I'm afraid not.
Man. What did
Danielle?
we do?
I don't know what we did.
All right, so I think we will leave this one as no scores because I don't think the final brewing, which is Tropic Most from the final beer, which is Tropic Most from Wicked Weed, would help anyone out. The answer was from episode number 27, Freedom and Freeze's Friday.
Oh.
We did Friday?
We did do
game.
Friday on tap. Wow.
and that was one of the games I played a lot when I was stuck in my room during the hurricane. So Dan kind of brought it full
You
circle.
got that one.
Yeah.
I am trying to give you a hook here and play to, but went too hard. All right. Round number 4. This is still your chance right here, Chris. This is when it happens. This is
Totally.
You got this.
History's proven this time and time again.
From Moonlight Meadery in New Hampshire is a mead called Red Dress. What was on tap with the Red Dress mead?
It really better be Rococo.
It is, in fact, Rococo. Well done, Chris.
Very
Also-
well done.
Also one of the all-time favorites in this house, so that's
It's a very good game.
It is a really good game. I was so excited
Yeah.
to find a copy of that in Shrink.
nice. Have you tried the expansion yet?
No, can't find it.
Really?
I haven't really looked.
I mean,
I always get
it's
mad when people are like, "Oh, I don't want to make dresses." It's like, but it's a good game.
I know. It's tight. The area control's rough. I mean, you get to make coats too. I'm like, what the? Get to make statues. I find it very odd when people get put off by that. And they do. They call it the dressmaking game, and I'm like, okay, fine, but it's still good. Still good. Love it.
I don't often want to make murders, but I do that in games all the time.
Thank you. What do you think, Dan? What's next?
All right. We'll do a tiebreaker round here, as a matter of fact, because we have 1 point for yourself, 1 point for each of our lovely co-hosts. So here we go. The beer is Expedition IPA from Adventure Brewing Company. What was on tap?
Oh, I don't know if you did it. The Isla Dorada? The Road to El Dorado?
Not correct, I'm afraid. I don't think you guys have put that on tap. All right, Jake, what have you got for Expedition IPA?
That wouldn't have fit into our Time Stories one. So I don't think we did Time Stories in general on tap, not specifically. Expedition IPA. No, I'm drawing a blank right now.
Okay, all right. First chance to
Seventh
steal.
Continent, right?
Ooh, it is not Seventh Continent.
Isn't it?
That would, yeah.
Are you sure?
I am starting to doubt myself because I
Who
feel
messed
like
up
Danielle is the
Who messed up
expert.
the show notes? That's all I want to know. Talk to that.
So that
editor.
means, once again, a beer that Danielle was very frustrated she had already used before Seventh Continent.
It's very highly possible. Do you get the lumbar cat or do you get the?
I very much have lumbar cat right now.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, I'm going to count us. Well, hold on, let me pull up the list first so I'm actually prepared here.
Yeah, make sure you're actually ready.
Yeah, you know.
Who wants to be ready?
Why prepare?
Fumbling on camera.
He's
Sometimes I
already-
just blindside him completely.
That was
It's
a
like-
fun one, though.
It's going to be a lot of me just staring and like visually running through games.
That was a lot of
Is
fun,
your
man.
production company literally a joke on Drunk Octopus Wants to Fight?
Yes, totally. It's adjective
That's
animal.
awesome.
That's so funny.